part of the fun for me. I don't know what I'm doing right now. So this could end up anywhere at the end, by the end of this session, which is cool. Because usually I know what I'm gonna do when I sit down at the desk. So this is a little different sculpting session for me.
Can we limit man's suggestions to one?
I've actually, Eric made the suggestion for me, so I still have my one left. Loopholes everywhere, Colin.
So what do we think?
Kitty!
Okay.
Say it, Kirby.
Over there.
Say it, Kirby.
That's a great idea.
Say it. Say it.
Cat person?
Say it, Kirby.
I would just like to propose, in a spirit of world peace and unity, that we have some sort of vampire, goblin, dwarf, cat type of situation going on. Just someone, there was a lot of love going on, and in the spirit of a united mythos.
So a barrel full of
So a
parts.
tiny cat with like my beautiful ugly baby boy Carpathius with the Nosferatu face, like kind of that incorporated.
But definitely hairless, because you have
creepier.
yeah.
And the
But a
vampires,
beard.
except
But a
for
beard for the
Olivia, have long hair.
But still needs a beard. It needs a cat with a beard.
I can't with a beard.
Bald cat with
Where does the goblin come in? The ears?
yeah, big cat.
Yeah,
Okay.
goblin ears.
And like kind of the wider.
But vampires
But this
don't have
again,
hair.
just
It could be
neither do
Sphinx
goblins.
Only
cat.
Olivia.
Only neither do goblins.
I'm not sure if anybody knows this, but they introduced an imp scale this year.
It's super
We
tiny.
have not seen an imp. Like, we've seen imp scale, but not an imp.
I think that's
So maybe
basically
we
what
kinda
we described.
incorporate a little
To the
imp
T,
into
Kurt.
that,
To the
too.
T.
I haven't never seen anything that
That's what I got
Kirby's
from you.
described either.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I'm not opposed to it. Again, I was just putting forth the proposal.
We can always do it and then make it in an imp scale.
Yes.
No, that's true. That's just a sizing issue.
Yep.
Easy fix.
An imp is just a smaller dwarf.
All right.
All the problems of mythos were solved today around this table.
Yeah.
That's amazing, look at that.
Yes. Everyone.
It's beautiful.
Well done.
Applause.
Love it.
All right.
Horrible much
I haven't forgotten my brothers on the
I
phone.
think this is
together.
doable.
Solidarity.
You just listened to all that and said that's doable.
No, then he does actually what he was planning on
Okay.
doing anyway.
Yeah.
It's until we take over the surface dwellers.
I don't even know what we just said, but it's doable.
He's like, I got it. He's locked in now.
No
yeah,
problem.
he's got it.
Creatures, man, that's my thing.
He's fine about this.
All right, so what I'm gonna start off with here, this is the way the majority of the parts that I make start. It's just a sphere, that it's one of the objects that comes preloaded in the ZBrush. The geometry is preset on it, so it's divided into these quadrants. Every spot a line intersects is a point. And that is, each one of those points, that's what establishes what the resolution is. And, although this looks like a lot, this is a low resolution sphere at this point. And, this is the equivalent of roughing out like a soft clay. Like this would definitely be like your roughing out stage. And then as you increase the resolution, it gets more into, like, if I'm equating it back to traditional sculpting, getting into a firm, like a wax or something where you can really put fine detail into, and the tools act that way in reaction to the material. If you get into a really high resolution piece, if you're doing a scribing tool into it, it looks more like you were carving into a wax. It's a very crisp edge, and the mark that it makes is finer and smaller. And that was one of those things, like switching over to digital, like those type of equating those, certain elements of the program back with that traditional background, then, that's where things start to make sense. So that being said, so that's the sphere. I put symmetry on, which is a big part of, one of the huge advantages of the digital process. And that is, if you look at where my tool is going over it, it's doing the exact same thing on the other side of the piece. And that's huge, because in traditional sculpture, you spend a lot of time trying to get the symmetry on a piece. So I am using the Move tool here, and this tool is just for, broad strokes, moving the base shapes in, like the more bigger picture items. Normally, like most of these other, there's a couple of these other ones, I start off kind of getting a little bit of the shape of, a human skull as our starting point, but here I'm, we're getting into more of a cat.
How does this compare to when you were actually sculpting by hand, as far as like the initial movements and stuff? Is it similar?
It's kind of similar, because like this would be the point where I would Castelline is a material that was more malleable when you heated it.
Mm-hmm.
And so this would be where I would take a warm, essentially a ball of clay, and start with that, and doing something very similar to this, just pushing and pulling, and when it's soft like that, like if I'm making the eye sockets, I can push my thumbs in, and sometimes just working with hands before even getting into the tools. And again, this is similar to it. That's where those decisions and those like that order of doing things is very similar. It's just doing it in a different medium, and having certain advantages that you didn't have otherwise.
So to your point earlier, it wasn't like throwing out all those skills, it's just applying them in a different way.
Absolutely, with a much more elaborate toolbox at your disposal.
But not as, would you say it's as tactile, it's not as tactile as rewarding as it was when you were working with the hands, though? Did you feel like you had a different connection versus just, you know what I'm saying?
That's
different.
It's different, but it is. I thought that was something that I would really miss, and I didn't. It's more tactile than I would have thought it would be. You certainly, in that case, I certainly don't, feel the heat of the clay in my hands,
Right,
and stuff like that. But I guess what it is like the feeling of just kind of creating something from nothing in a single session of sitting at your desk, that hasn't gone away. And that's ultimately what the most I guess rewarding and kind of exciting part of the process is. And one thing that's cool here, I just used this tool to build up the nose and the muzzle, and then I switched. That's in a additive version of the tool, and I just switched it over to subtractive. I'm just using the exact same tool, but now it's taking away material. And that's every one of the tools in here. You can do it additive, you can do it subtractive, you can choose any size you want, you can apply a texture stamp to it. It's so, every tool in the palette is thousands of tools. Of course, in ZBrush, they're called brushes, and the thing that I'm sculpting, the piece that I'm sculpting on, is called a tool. So just the way things were labeled first getting into this was confusing as well. Yeah, and then some of it just seemed very backwards. And then there's certain things in here, there's right there is a move tool, but if I go into the palette and use the tool I was using that earlier, was also a move tool, and then right there is a move tool. So it's
Options.
yeah, and again, could be somewhat confusing early on, but you get the hang of it.
Eric, when you transitioned over to ZBrush, did you learn by just sort of jumping in and playing around with it? Did you take a class on it? Were there YouTube tutorials at the time? How did you dive into this?
I learned almost exclusively through YouTube tutorials. I was telling one of the groups earlier, so there was a point where I actually bought ZBrush for the first time and tried to learn it, and became so angry and frustrated that I didn't touch it again for years. Like I closed it out on my computer, didn't touch it for years. And at the time, it was a very different program, and you spent a lot more time dealing with the geometry and the technical parts of it, and not a lot of time sculpting. And so that was very frustrating. And also at the time, it was before so many people had it and were posting YouTube tutorials, and there was this community of information. And so when I came back to it, all of that was in place, and the ability to understand what was going on was so much more accessible at the time. So that time, luckily, it stuck. But yeah, I mean, because a couple of the guys at the studio at the time were going into the city and taking classes, and I just didn't have time to do it. I had two, basically babies at home at the time, and I was trying to hit my deadlines for, my actual projects, and so like I couldn't do that at the time. So I just sat at work during the day and did my my work, which was for projects for Mattel at the time, and then I would go home at night and then try to execute what I had learned while I was listening to videos during the day. And it took longer because I was doing it like that, but it worked. And even once I started using ZBrush, I still was kind of like half and half for a long time, where even a lot of Mythic stuff I would do it digitally, print it, we'd make a mold, we'd pour gasoline into it, and get finished by hand. Because I just didn't have the experience or the confidence in what I was doing yet. But it eventually worked out, and like I said, I mean, I don't think I could go back at this point, for multiple reasons. But I just, it's now just become second nature, working this way. And again, like to just sit here and talk and get a face coming together like this, like I couldn't. There's no way, like in this amount of time, that it'd still look like a blob of clay if I was doing it by hand.
So efficiency of kicking out as much expectations as you guys have going in your portfolio now, this is like a godsend.
Oh yeah.
Because there's no way you could have kept up that with hand sculpting.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. I mean, I think about how long it takes to put together a wave at this point, and I mean, I would say anything we do here is at least a quarter of the time that it would take to do otherwise. Maybe even less. Back in the days of when we first started with Mattel, and we were working on the 2002 Masters of the Universe line. Some of those figures, took months to do a single figure. Because they were huge. I mean, they were like that big. So just the amount of clay we were pushing around was excessive. But a figure like that now could be done in a couple weeks probably.
Mm-hmm. I know before you said that as far as like the brushes or the different aspects of ZBrush, that you only use a very small portion of what's available. Has there been anything within the past year or so that you've picked up that has been very beneficial that you maybe weren't using before?
I mean, for the most part, I use a lot of the same features that I did the year before. But every once in a while, and a lot of times it's not something as straightforward as say, I found a new brush or something like that. It's usually you know, really technical little, like, sub-component of something that, you know, that I've already been doing. And, but when, you know, when I find those things, though, it does make life a lot easier. Because there's somebody, like, there's certain, like, what you're seeing here is, you know, this is essentially me taking a tool and, you know, manipulating an object or making a mark on an object or whatever. It's like very, very straightforward and very, very similar to like the way traditional sculpture would work. And you know, I sculpt in ZBrush differently than somebody who learned to sculpt in ZBrush, you know, that's where they not only learn to sculpt in ZBrush, but they learn how to sculpt. And because there's a lot of things where it gets much more technical, and you're going in, you know, you're putting on the, you know, the wire frame and, you know, manipulating point by point, and you're, you know, the program's running algorithms to kind of do things for you and stuff like that. And it's just not really the way I work. And that's where, like, I mean, certain people, you know, they'll do, you know, they'll go in, you see them press a button and it's like generates, you know, like chainmail all over a figure or something like that. But it's such a different way of thinking because they're digital first and sculpting second, whereas, you know, I have all those years of sculpting first, and then the digital came later. And I mean, in my opinion, it ultimately doesn't matter. Like, you know, when you get a figure, you know, if I sculpted it with the Move tool or the Damien standard brush or whatever, it doesn't matter as long as it looks good. And that would
ways to skin a cat.
absolutely.
Sorry for any cat people.
And you know, and even back in sculpting traditionally, there's always certain people were wax people, and certain people were castelline people, and certain people were clay people, and they, you know, swear by it, and you know, what are you doing, and all this stuff, and that was like, I would always say, like, you know, who cares? Like, if the figure is the figure at the end, like it doesn't matter. I mean, if you're comfortable with it, and you know, if it was sculpted out of mashed potatoes, but you can put it in a mold and make a good looking figure out of it, then so be it.
And you can actually eat it when you're done.
There you go.
It's a bonus. All right, so we got, you know, kind of a cat base here. So that's with some, you know, more regular ears. So I'm gonna, a lot of times what I'll do here, like, so I've got those ears, they're a separate part from the base head. I am going to duplicate these ears, and I'm gonna turn off the visibility of the first set, and that way we keep those original ears. And I like being able to do that, and that's the beauty of this too, is like you can save over and over, you know, so this is cat gnome head 1, cat gnome head, you know, save it at every step of the way if you want to. And so you can always go back, and that gives you the freedom to make bolder decisions, where you can't really go wrong with taking a chance on something.
Do you have a bunch of like ears and noses and stuff just saved so that you don't have to redo it? Yeah, I mean, obviously for this session you're doing from scratch, but
Absolutely.
okay.
Absolutely. And I don't tend to do anything where, let's say it's ears, where I'll just take it, put it on the next figure and leave it. But I was actually saying in the last session, like, an ear is a very complex set of forms, like a lot of compound curves and, you know, kind of undulation of tissue and all this stuff. So to be able to start off with that and then take it and stretch it and pull it and, you know, inflate it and all this other stuff, like, it's a big time saver. And I would rather take that time and make a second head to put in the package, or, you know, double the detail or whatever it is. Like, I love efficiency. Like especially if you can marry it with the creativity in a way that they serve each other, and that allows for, this allows for a lot of that. And so, yeah, like to be able to not start from scratch on an ear every time is hours saved that goes into more important things. So, yeah, absolutely. And that's the beauty of this too, is the longer I've been doing it, the more of those little bits and pieces exist that I can.
Building an inventory.
Absolutely. Yep.
I'm guessing it's kind of what you did with the creature's body and the Jersey Devil. So it's the same thing, and then you have like the stitching and stuff. It's like a separate layer, so it's the same but different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the way, because that was tooled back with Frankenstein, and when I did that body, no stitches first, and it's more symmetrical, it's more straight up and down, and then I took that and twisted it and made it more disturbing and Frankensteinish, and then put all the stitches in and changed the detail where it's more sinewy and stuff like that. But yeah, like if I would, I didn't have to start those from scratch. So and then it also also ensures that it's also everything's compatible too. So but yeah, I mean that's a great example.
Did you know what you were gonna use that non-stitch body for when you did it, or it was just kind of like, hey, we'll probably use this down the road?
I didn't. That's one where I didn't know. No, I knew we would use it. I knew it would be a useful body type to have in the line. But yeah, I didn't know yet. But that's one of those things where people have been asking for a Jersey Devil for years and years, and then as soon as we did the Wendaji and we had the fur parts, and then we had those Frankenstein parts, and it was like, okay, now is the time, because a lot of people want it. I'm excited about it. We have the parts to make it, so it's all those things coming together, and that's the way a lot of the decision of when to do things or what character to do. That's how it happens a lot of times.
Eric, I'm curious, what type of hard drive space does this take up? Because you mentioned if you sculpt an ear that you feel like you can reuse, or you sculpt a part you feel like you can reuse, like, are these large files for each thing you're saving, or?
They can be, especially if I start to put together like a build of a full figure. Like if it's just a head, it's not a huge file. But once you start putting, you think of it as like each part of the body, like takes up a certain amount of file space. So if you've got a body with armor and weapons and belts and all that stuff, and you're like sometimes it might be like at 80 parts in a file. Like it does get very large, and so I've got a separate hard drive that my brother knows all this stuff. Like he helped me out with that, and I've got this partitioned off external hard drive that I think it's like, it might be like, I think it's like 24 terabytes or something like that. It's big.
I'd love to see that sometime.
It's only like this big, so it's not that crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to share it, folks. Come on.
But yeah, like so it eventually takes up a lot of space. But like I keep it mostly off of the computer itself, so it doesn't slow things down. Yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to move that would be bad.
I mean, yeah, like
I
that's.
love all the parts.
Yeah, I do not want to start over again.
I had to save that one. I saw.
I'm kind of just interested on this one where you sculpt away. What is your, on all the projects you worked on in a tangible medium, sculpting, versus your digital medium, what was your favorite project or character you worked on in that versus now the digital picture? I know.
I'm terrible at this.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it's really hard because when you design mostly, so, but did anything speak to you from like back in the sculpting days with your hands, and then digitally, some of you just were like, wow, that came out like that, just amazing. This is one of my favorite pieces ever. I didn't think it was going that way, but.
we did Masters Universe for so long that there were certainly like the classics. Merman was one of the ones I really liked.
Did you do the clawful?
Yeah, that one like that was a very like some
2000X, right?
yeah.
That one's,
And that was a special time too, because that was when we, just left McFarlane and were like taking the risk of going out on our own, and then we stepped into that 2002. And Masters was, as a kid, was one of my absolute favorites. Like I had been waiting for that to relaunch forever, and then we got to relaunch it, which was cool. So it's those monster characters from 2002 and classics that I really liked. And then as far as our own stuff, Zethius was a big one, because that was like the first of our like really, we did Magnacore, but that was kind of like our first like IP building type figure with the type of detail that kind of eventually evolved into Mythic Legions and the type of stuff we're doing now.
and those are all sculpted like with your hands and stuff, right?
Yeah, for
So
sure.
now in the era of your ZBrush, your digital work, what would you say is your favorite along that line so far? And obviously, I'm not trying to prod for anything.
No, I mean, I really have a
What's
soft.
been released, or what we've seen so far?
Yeah. I mean, I have a soft spot for especially some of that first wave cosmic stuff like Slog and Kragnar. Like,
I love Kragnar. Kragnar is just.
it's I like that cosmic stuff a lot. I mean, at this point, like, I definitely Baethier is up there. I mean, that was probably one of the the longest projects and most kind of involved projects and most anticipated projects. So I that one I'm very thrilled that it came out well and that everybody seems to have enjoyed it as much as they have. So that one definitely is up there on the digital side. And I think it was a good example of what that took a long time to do digitally. That would have taken close to a year probably.
I think in your digital stuff, that's like your graduation, your master's piece. If you're being graded, I mean, size, detail, the amount of working components and parts, segments, all the things that went into that, as well as just the sheer amazing design. It's awesome.
It definitely, it felt like it was where a lot of things came together, and so that that one's certainly up there, and it's it was definitely a big one, probably the biggest thing I've ever sculpted.
So I want to know, you being the creator of Baethier, how did you feel last year when the curtains were parted and you heard the response to your sculpt, to like the design?
Maybe relief more than anything else. Because I mean, we people had asked for it for so long, and 10 years is a long time for people to get an idea of what it's going to be. Yep. Yeah, and that was the thing. We experienced that a lot. In those Masters Universe days, like, I don't know, when you get to, I don't know, Mermista, whatever, like one of these characters that was late in the line where people had all this time to build up in their head, what's Mermista going to look like? And then no matter what it is, if like it's not what somebody thinks it is, like, you could be in trouble. And Masters was one where people were so passionate about it. There were a lot of times where, people had that expectation, and then, it wasn't necessarily that they thought it was bad. It was just that it was not the way they saw it. Or a lot of, in that Masters world, there was a lot of, are you a toy fan or are you a Filmation cartoon fan, and so if it leaned one way or the other, somebody might be upset about that, and so we've had some experience with that sort of managing expectations and stuff, and so we knew with all that time for people to kind of think about what that dragon could look like. There's a lot of room for disappointment, and so it was definitely like it was thrilling to hear the response, and obviously the amount of energy in the room was just awesome. But there was certainly a relief aspect. It's kind of a double relief aspect too, because one is just that, okay, it seems like everybody's cool with this, check on that. But then also it was such a huge secret, like to keep under our hats and not talk about and all that stuff. And so finally it's like, oh, we can talk about it, we can show it, the secret's out, and G-Con there's a lot of that in general, because you've got to keep a lot under our hat leading up to it, and by the time usually we're at G-Con, the majority of what we've been working on is shown at G-Con. It's not like we've got a lot left waiting in the wings that we haven't revealed yet. So all this stuff that we've been saving up for the reveals, having it out, I think everybody's just happy to be able to discuss it and share it and everything.
Eric, how many hours, is there a way that you track how many hours you put into a specific project? Maybe not necessarily through this program, just out of curiosity, like how many sculpting hours do you think you had in Beta Theater?
Does that software track how long you're on?
No.
Didn't know if it had like a runtime.
Nah, and it's tough because for one thing, like a lot of times I'll overlap projects. So like when I was working on Beta Theater, I was also doing Leodicius, which were both two pretty big projects actually, and other things would get thrown on the desk for a little bit here and there as well during that. And so, I probably had, I think I first started into it, what are we, 20, would that have been 20? Wait a minute. Oh, God. That would have been, that would have been 24, like January 24. Yeah, I started it, and then tooling patterns probably went over, I think it was either late May or early June. So it was off and on for, half a year, but like I said, there were a lot of other projects happening during that period. And, the amount of hours put in a particular day vary greatly, because I know during that period, like spring break happened, and, stuff like that. But it was certainly one of the longest amounts of times that I've ever spent on a single thing.
If you put in 4 ears, you can also make it costume.
So one of the things that I've been thinking about lately, obviously as the line progresses and the library gets bigger, and different tooling and stuff like that, you're able to do more things as the line progresses, right? And so just kind of thinking about the order in which the Dark Four came out, if it had been reversed and Necronominus was first and then Aether was last, what do you think Aether would look like today if it wasn't the first one out, but it was instead the last one to come out?
Cooler. It's funny because there was, at the time Aether came out, like since advent of the K, that was the first time we really were adding new tooling. And so, I still remember that felt like such a new wave, and like it was such a step forward. And I think by the time we got to Necronominus, it felt like such an old wave with, and it felt so, I don't know if crude's the word, but like so much less developed than where we were at by the time. So, I mean, the easiest thing, I guess, to say is that it would have had a lot more uniqueness to it, a lot less shared parts. I'm definitely.
Yeah, can you make it too? Is kind of awesome.
I mean, I am refraining from saying certain stuff because I do think that's one, obviously out of the Dark Four, if one's going to get a 2.0, that's going to be the first one. And I think, with that wave now, again, feeling like it's a little bit, behind the rest. Yeah, like I could certainly see that one getting redone.
Just don't change Olivia, she's perfect.
Well, I like to see like the Urzok that just came out, right? And the detail on the armor, like just all the little parts and stuff. I've seen a lot of people like start to mix those parts in with their Aerithir and just kind of like amp them up and change it. And like those things got me thinking about, man, if that was the last one out, like I think he would. I mean, he's already metal anyway, but like I think he would be like the coolest character if it was like the last one.
From metal to black metal.
Yeah.
And like, Alithia is one. I think if there was an Alithia 2.0, I think a lot of what is on her would stay. It would be more like how do you plus up the figure more? Like what it could be done. But it would only it'd be like again how do you give her more accessories or enhance what's there? Like it would not be. And same thing with Aerithir. Like it's not going to be like I wouldn't change Aerithir. It'd just be like how do I enhance? In that Urzok example is actually a great example because it's they shared a lot of armor parts and it's like how do we take those armor parts that that we're so familiar with and just take them to the next level and make how do we make that character a little bit more unique and look less like it's sharing parts with 30 other figures?
Like going from 720 to like 4K.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, it's just there's more.
It does a lot of the shapes of Urzok's armor feel familiar, but it's just with this like increased texture and depth and and then it makes the paint jobs even that much better because you've got these like shaded areas and highlighted areas and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, some of it, it's just some of it's just a byproduct of our, what our abilities are now and what, what the factory can pull off and, going back all the way to where like Urzok was, is, what we can afford, to invest in tooling and stuff like that, which, fortunately, we're in a very different place than we were then, so it allows us to I'd still be smart about it, still be strategic about it, but take it further than we could ever, take it back then.
I think another really good example of how far everything's come is the plume from the Knights and how the detail in the 3-tiered pliable plume instead of this lump of sculpted plastic. I think that just shows how that has transitioned so quickly into something much more effective in the aspect when you think of a plume, right? And I think the studio, obviously, I mean, everybody in this room probably feels the exact same way that there's been just such a leaps and bounds in that Necronominus wave was such a paramount wave to really show like, wow, okay, the growth. I mean, the figures have been amazing, right? We've been fans and supporters, but once that Necronominus wave, and it's been on fire ever since. There's been some type of iteration where you can see the drastic hard work and pivoting within tooling and design and
I think one of the biggest ones is the belts.
Like, it was-
Bells,
that-
bells,
that
bells,
that
bells,
belt
yeah.
on Urzok, like
Right.
the braided one going on across his chest and stuff, compared to like, no
Right.
offense, but the ones we got back in the day. It was, you know.
No offense taken, I mean, that's for, in Necronominus really was, that was, with, the Valiant Knight build and the skeletons, that was really the first time, like, from a body standpoint, we went in and readdressed the Wave 1, core builds, those core body types. And, as the person, creating those body types, those sculptures, those designs, like, I love going back and improving 10 years later. Like, it's awesome. And so, yeah, like, that was a lot of fun.
You have about 10 minutes, sir.
Okay.
Okay?
No problem. But yeah, like I agree completely. I mean, and that's what I was like that simple loop belt, like it worked, it served its purpose. Like they've created a good deal of customizing options. You could put it around the waist, you could put it across the shoulders, you could do two, yeah.
Interlock 'em, yeah.
Yeah.
Plus,
And,
it was cost effective. I mean, going back to your point, right? At the beginning, when you're trying to build an arsenal of parts, it costs money, right?
Yeah.
And so if you've got something that's working, and you can free up that tooling money for something else that you want to step in a different direction, that wasn't first on the list of where you wanted to go. But now, the success of the company, the success of the multiple lines that are coming out, has allowed that financial, depth to actually step into something more exotic, more detailed, and a little more risky.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Eric, I don't mean to disagree with my colleague, the director of sales and marketing, but you don't have 10 minutes. You have as many minutes as you want. Just like put your foot in front of the door so nobody can open it. This session might be going a little long.
Has there been any thought around, and this is one thing I've been thinking about, so wings, right? We have different style of wings, but the adapter that connects to the body.
Oh, yeah.
So that it sits a little bit better.
The wings are something we talk about a lot, and this is the challenge with Legions, both Mythic and Cosmic. It's the build system part of it. It's our biggest strength, right? Like, I mean, that's what allows the customizing. That's where so much of the fun, the interaction, and all that comes in. And now here we are, we're 10 plus years in. So like any decision that we make, it either supports the system or we have to make a really bold decision and start doing something that breaks breaks that continuity. It's not backwards compatible. And the wings are one of, there's a few spots, and the wings are definitely one of them where, we still are not sure what the exact right solution is, if I'm being completely honest. Like, what do we do? Because, it becomes an investment. And so if we're gonna do that investment, if it's not backwards compatible, you start losing people with it. Is it going to be upsetting and all that? And so, I'm sure that there is a solution there, but I'm just not sure what it is. But I think that probably the next time we develop a new set of wings, that might be where you see the results of that that thought process.
You thought about magnets or Velcro?
You
give one good suggestion and one bad suggestion. That's how you direct the
Just the order, right? You gotta put the one you want at the
Are
end.
you kind of saying like the part of the holes where the pauldrons would go into, like that size is standardized, and so if you try to change the wings, you would have to have something that would fit and work with that, which may not actually help with the engineering of the wings.
Right, because I think ultimately what we need to happen is those points need to be bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And then if we do that like every torso we've ever done is now
Doesn't work. Yeah.
And so it's one of these things where I think we need to figure out, is there a system within a system?
Mm-hmm.
I think a longer peg with a key like a keyed head with more depth. Because one of the problems that I see with most of the figures
It
is
doesn't feel like it goes in.
it doesn't go far enough, and if you try to use the articulation, it pops it out. So
Right.
there's not enough depth, and then that key notch would help it from rotating and or pulling out as easy. Just a suggestion.
Almost like a ball peg, like something that would actually pop and hold in, yeah.
But that, and then that, that goes back, because I mean, I agree with that, but then, that goes to that exact same problem, like, the sockets in the torsos are only so deep.
Right.
It's another one that is, those type of discussions have happened on, and that's where, when Rising Suns hits, you'll see it, is that shield adapter, like trying to figure out how to improve the shield, because initially we had the handle, we got a lot of complaints, we had the clip, got a lot of complaints about that, went to the handle, still not perfect, and so it's kind of.
I see the double straps, that's what I was going to suggest, and I think that implements pretty good, where you have the strap here and strap here and hold it.
Yeah, I think we're to the point where we're thinking the shield's a little easier because it's separate from the body, where we're,
Because sometimes my
You
shoes are
gotta figure out what he can and can't say.
well, it doesn't matter, but I don't remember if this is revealed tomorrow or not, but I've recently sculpted a shield that has a different thing going on. Actually, I don't remember if that's tomorrow or not, but
I will probably tell you if it's been revealed or not.
Maybe show us photos.
Just teasing.
If I can ask something kind of different, one thing we've talked about with some of the different people in the studio is just some of us are fortunate enough that our partners support us in what we do in different things. And you mentioned your babies earlier, so you've dropped them and incorporated them into your work. You had one of your dogs as well inspired something. I'm always just curious, how does your partner feel about this? As I noticed that she hasn't been featured in any figures. Has she maybe said, like, where is my figure? Or has she said, never sculpt me?
I've never, she's never given me a hard ultimatum one way or the other. I think she's very comfortable not having a figure. She would much rather the dogs and the kids, get those little, those little nods. I've sculpted her plenty of stuff over the years that, hasn't been featured as toys, and so I as far as that goes, she's fine with not having a figure in the line.
And then how does she feel about, kind of what you built, like
She's 100% behind it. We have a house where toys aren't relegated to one room. She collects like Monster High.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So and I mean, she's, because we've been together for a long time, and I've told this story a few times, but I got out of collecting figures it must have been late middle school. I don't remember how old I was at the time. I was out of figures, and I got into skateboarding and high school stuff. And then in college, I started getting back a little bit into comic books and things like that. And one time we were at Target, and I had seen an ad. It was for the Toy Biz Venom figure in the paper. And I was interested in it, but I didn't know if I'm not getting back into this stuff. And so we were in there, and I saw it, and I was looking at it, and it was cool, and walked away. And as we walked away, some kid came up and picked it up and started looking at it, and then he put it down, and then as soon as he put it down, she ran and grabbed the figure, and she's like, we're getting this. And then that was it. So I don't know if I'd be back into into toys and doing this if,
she's the original enabler.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
She started it all?
Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you.
But we've been into this, especially before we had kids, she would come to every San Diego Comic Con, come to, all the toy shows. She's awesome. And we love all this stuff together, and the kids are into it. So it's very cool to, it's a family affair for sure.
That's great.
Will the new boss be having a breakout session this year?
We got some Four Horsemen like apparel made for the show, and so I brought home his hoodie, and he was pissed off that it didn't say boss on the back.
Come on, man.
In regards to the sculpting, I know we don't have much time left, but what's your, you sculpt everything, correct?
Yeah, pretty much, like for the Legion stuff.
Have you thought about, I'm sure you have, as time moves on and the Legion's label keeps growing in many different directions, have you thought about a counterpart to help you?
It's something that I'll put it this way, after years and years of working on other people's stuff, the dream was to get to the point where we're doing our own thing. So I'm at that point now. So I'm not looking, I want to do all of this because I love doing it.
Right.
But I know that point will happen at some point. I don't know that it's anytime soon. I've still got a lot of energy with this, but it is something that ultimately, I do definitely see that it may have to happen.
Or start taking somebody underneath your wing and just kind of showing the ways of Eric Treadaway.
I will learn ZBrush.
Because your style and it's your designs and your artistic viewpoint and capability that have built this company in many ways. To bring somebody in now that starts learning your style and your vision, just
Well, I'm hoping at least in part that's my oldest. Nolan's really.
That's where I was going. I was kind of curious if it's a family thing.
That's what I would. Nolan is interested in this stuff. Brandon, not I think he's interested in it not as much creatively, but Nolan's knows how to do ZBrush. We're gonna get a 3D printer at the house. So, I would love to see that.
You never know, he may have his gap too and get an enabled girlfriend that brings him back in.
You never know. You never know.
All right, guys.
I would love to see that.
Unfortunately,